It's near quitting time. You're at your office and you're packing some things up and there's a light tap on the door. It's Debbie. She's 29 years old. She's an up-and-coming executive. She's on the fast track, huge potential. And she asked just before you leave, can I get a moment? I need to ask you something. You kind of stop unpacking, go to your desk, invite her to sit down. And the second that she needs ends up 45 minutes. Debbie begins through tears to talk about the man that she thought was going to be the answer to her dreams that was in her life and is now gone, and she's 3 months pregnant. She's on the fast track and she doesn't know what to do. And she turns to you and says, I know you're a good person and you're my boss. What should I do? What would you tell her? And why would you say that? Scene number 2. You sit down to eat dinner and you just, wow, the day's over, it's great. The phone rings, you look down, you press the button, you're not going to take it right now. And within seconds, a text pops up and it says, Amy, I really need to talk to you tonight. Amy, wow. It's a 16-year-old girl that you've known her since she's 4 or 5 years old. Great family friends. You vacation with their family. You've seen her grow up and be this amazing student. She has a volleyball scholarship ahead of her. And she said, I just got to talk to you. She comes after dinner and you go into the study and close the door and spend some time. And she relives that moment that she was so excited about 3 months ago when that guy that is so popular and so cool asked her to go to the prom. And the dream of going out with that super good-looking guy turned into the nightmare of her life. And she became a statistic of date rape. But she felt so overwhelmed and so ashamed and didn't know how to handle it. She just shut it down. She has told no one, not her mom, not her dad, not her sister, not a girlfriend. But you've been in the high school ministry and a family friend and you're safe. And with tears flowing down her eyes, she goes, what can I do? I mean, this will ruin my parents' reputation. My dad is a leader at the church. My mom teaches women's Bible studies. What would you tell her? Why? Scene number 3 is June. She's 41 years old. You really like her. She's real rough around the edges. She's been a Christian about 18 months. She kind of doesn't know the social graces of when to talk about what. She's a little bit loud. She has 4 kids, comes from a difficult drug background, has 4 kids by 2 different guys. But it's so exciting to see what's happened to her life, and she's really changed, and she's growing, and she's got a great job now and supporting the kids by herself. And she pulls you in the hall, and people are listening, and you know this is inappropriate. She goes, look, I got to ask you a question. You remember my husband when he came back, I tried to work it out, and then he left for good? While he was here, I found out just yesterday I'm pregnant, and I've got 4 kids, and I can't miss a day of work, and I sure can't handle 5. You've been a Christian a lot longer than me. What should I do? And why? Regardless of where you find yourself landing on the issue of abortion, it's one of the most pivotal, volatile issues in America today. And it's an issue that just isn't out there. It's not like this is a theological issue we're going to address. 65% of all women who have abortions self-identify as Christians. This is what happens inside of all kinds of churches. So what would you say to that person? Not just what do you think, but what do you believe and why? When this topic comes up, usually it's like missiles being fired at 2 different groups. I mean, there's heat, anger, often violence. And so we're going to take a little bit different approach and lean back and do a thoughtful analysis. We're going to look at some research. We're going to look at what Planned Parenthood says and what the Right to Life groups say. And we're going to evaluate where they've been, where they are now. Look at the evidence. Because I'll guarantee in the next few years, either you'll have an experience where you'll need to know the answer to those questions, or someone will ask you, or you've already had one where you really need to know, where's God in all of this? Last night, and I don't know how God works this, but it was just before the service, and I was walking up that aisle, and as I walk up the aisle, a guy stopped me and said, I just want to say something. I've looked at the notes. I see what you're going to speak on tonight. He came pretty early, was sitting next to his wife. He says, if I get up and leave, I just want you to know it's not you. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, my mother was 14 years old when she was pregnant with me. And her entire family and everyone wanted her to abort me. And this 14-year-old was just like a crusader who refused to have me aborted. And every time this subject comes up, and he just started to cry. He goes, it is so emotional for me. And what I want you to get, this isn't about sort of statistics or numbers or theories or political views. This is about life. And then it was very interesting. His wife sitting next to him, she said, well, I'm sure glad she did because I don't know where I'd be without him. And all I want you to know as you listen, as we weigh the evidence, as you evaluate how you would answer that question, it's easy to answer it hypothetically. It's real different when it gets down to a real life situation. What's the medical evidence when you look at this? What's the historical evidence, and then what's the biblical evidence?